Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Science Drift. Tonight we'll drift softly across the quiet ocean of the universe to visit our luminous neighbor, the Andromeda Galaxy. Somewhere beyond the blue veil of our sky, a faint smudge of light has been waiting for you. It has waited for everyone who has ever looked up at night and wondered what glows beyond the stars. Tonight, we let our thoughts slow until they move like that light itself, crossing millions of years to meet the calm face of another world. If you step outside on a cool autumn evening, far from the hum of cities, you might find Andromeda resting above the horizon. At first, it seems nothing more than a pale cloud, something your eyes could almost mistake for a wisp of mist. Yet what you are seeing is a vast spiral of 1,000,000,000,000 suns, stretching more than 200,000 light-years across. The human eye cannot grasp such size, yet it tries. Our minds draw near to this distant shape, imagining we could hold it in a single gaze. But we cannot. Andromeda is too large, too quiet, too patient to be held. It exists in the same way that mountains exist, or oceans, or time. It is there, steady and unbothered, while our lives pass like ripples on water. For most of human history, that faint light was a mystery. Ancient storytellers gave it meaning the only way they knew how, through myth. In Greece, it became the chained princess, waiting to be rescued by Perseus. In Persia and China, it was marked in the sky as a cloud, a heavenly sign. None of them could know that what they saw was not a mist of air, not a cluster of stars within our own world, but an entire galaxy. Their eyes were meeting the combined glow of worlds uncounted, light gathered from suns that had been burning long before the first cities rose on Earth. Yet in their stories there was a kind of truth, because they sensed that what hung there was sacred. Even without knowing its name, they knew it mattered. The first telescopes brought Andromeda a little closer, though even then its nature stayed hidden. Astronomers called it a nebula, a Latin word for cloud. They thought it might be a patch of gas inside our Milky Way. The idea that there could be other galaxies, other island universes beyond our own, was too strange to believe. The night sky already felt infinite enough. To imagine that every blur of light might be its own universe was to face an almost unbearable vastness. Still, curiosity has a way of leaning forward into the dark. Over centuries, lenses improved, minds expanded, and the truth slowly unfolded. When Edwin Hubble measured the distance to Andromeda, the result changed everything. It was not within the Milky Way. It was far beyond, separated by millions of light years. In that moment, humanity's map of existence grew 1,000-fold. The Milky Way was no longer the whole of the cosmos. It was only one among billions. The discovery did more than stretch our understanding of space. It shifted our sense of meaning. For the first time, we saw that our home was small, that the universe was larger and older and quieter than we had dared to imagine. It is a humbling realization, and yet it brings comfort too. To be part of something so vast is to know that nothing is truly isolated. Every light in the sky is a reminder that the universe is a connected web of being and that we are threads within it. Imagine the light from Andromeda's stars beginning its journey 2.5 million years ago. At that time, the first ancestors of modern humans were shaping stones in the plains of Africa. Ice ages came and went, forests rose and fell, and still the light traveled on, untouched. It crossed the vacuum of space with perfect silence, never stopping, never aging, until tonight, when it enters your eyes. The photons you see began their path before language, before art, before memory itself. They carry messages written in a time when Earth was still young. When you gaze at that faint glow, you are not seeing the present. You are seeing a ghost of the past, a soft memory of what once was. The universe shows itself to us through these gentle delays, through this beautiful imperfection of time. To look at Andromeda is to look at patience itself. Nothing in human life moves at such a rhythm. We are creatures of breath, of days, of fleeting years. The galaxy, by contrast, moves in cycles that last billions of years. Stars are born and die in silence, leaving behind clouds that one day form new stars. The shape of the spiral changes, but so slowly that no single generation could ever notice. Its stillness is not the absence of motion. It is motion too vast to see. When we watch the sky, we are not watching things as they are, but as they were, preserved in the long echo of light. And perhaps that is why gazing at space feels like meditation. It stretches the boundaries of now until we feel our smallness dissolving into something timeless. The Andromeda Galaxy drifts toward us at more than 200,000 miles per hour, yet from our view, it seems perfectly still. Gravity pulls us together across the void, overcoming the expansion of the universe. Someday, far in the future, Andromeda and the Milky Way will merge into one. The thought of two galaxies colliding might sound violent, but the truth is gentler. The distance between individual stars is so immense that very few will ever touch. Instead, they will weave through one another like dancers, their orbits bending, their light blending, until a new, larger galaxy is born. Even destruction in the cosmos happens slowly, beautifully, with grace. What we call collision, the universe calls transformation. There is poetry in that. The same gravity that keeps your feet on Earth is the same force that will one day draw two galaxies into a single glowing form. The same atoms in your body were once part of stars that lived and died billions of years ago. The light that touches your eyes tonight has crossed time and emptiness just to meet your gaze. The universe is vast, but it is not separate. It is a continuous body of motion and memory. Every breath, every heartbeat is part of its rhythm. When you understand that, fear dissolves. You realize that you are not small. You are part of the pattern, a single note in the quiet symphony of creation. The stars of Andromeda do not twinkle as ours do. From here, their combined glow appears soft, steady, almost tender. It is as if the galaxy is breathing slowly, each pulse of light a quiet reminder that existence itself is gentle when viewed from far enough away. Within that light are suns larger than ours, planets circling them, perhaps oceans, perhaps skies. We may never know what forms of life, if any, drift beneath that distant glow. But the possibility itself is enough to awaken wonder. Somewhere in that galaxy, light falls on worlds that will never know our name, just as we once looked up, not knowing theirs. And yet, the light between us keeps traveling, carrying the silent message that we are not alone. When ancient people looked at Andromeda, they looked without understanding. We look now with instruments, equations, and data, but the feeling is the same. Wonder has not changed. It only deepens. Science does not erase the mystery, it reveals more of it. Each discovery peels back one layer of the unknown, only to show another beyond. Knowledge and awe walk together, like two travelers sharing the same road. One asks, "What is this?" The other whispers, "How beautiful it is." Both are right. Both are needed. Think of the time that light spends on its way here. Think of the emptiness it crosses, the silence between galaxies. In that silence, nothing stirs. No sound, no air, no wind. Only the invisible threads of gravity and the faint hum of radiation left from the birth of the universe. Yet within that emptiness, the light endures. It carries memory without losing its brightness. It reminds us that even in silence, there is persistence. Even in distance, there is connection. The journey of that light mirrors our own small journeys through life, long, uncertain, yet filled with quiet purpose. As you imagine Andromeda hanging in the darkness, let yourself breathe with it. Feel the slow rhythm of its existence, the calm turning of its spiral arms. The stars there are born, burn, and fade, just as all things do. The dust of their deaths becomes the seed of new suns, the cycle never ending. In that pattern, we can see ourselves. We too are made of stardust, born from the ashes of earlier stars, destined to return to the same cosmic fabric. To live is to participate in this endless exchange of matter and light. Nothing is wasted, nothing is lost. Everything changes form and continues on. If you were to stand on a world within Andromeda and look back toward the Milky Way, you would see us as a faint patch of light in your night sky. Two galaxies, each thinking the other small, each glowing quietly in the other's darkness. That thought alone can bring peace. The universe is full of reflections like that, vast things appearing tiny because of distance, simple things holding unfathomable depth. To see clearly, one must sometimes step far away. From that distance, even our troubles begin to look like clouds, temporary, shifting, illuminated from behind. Science tells us that Andromeda is moving toward us. Philosophy tells us that everything in the universe moves toward unity. Perhaps they are the same truth spoken in different languages. The galaxies will one day meet and become one. We too spend our lives seeking reunion, finding and losing, separating and returning. The cosmos mirrors us because we are part of it. When you look at Andromeda, you are seeing not only another galaxy, but the reflection of your own longing to belong to something infinite. So tonight, let Andromeda be your companion. Let it remind you that knowledge and peace can coexist. That to understand the universe does not mean to conquer it, but to join it in stillness. The faint light above you has traveled longer than our species has existed, yet it arrives softly, without urgency. It does not demand attention. It simply glows. You do not have to do anything to meet it. You only have to be still. Somewhere in that silence, the stars continue to burn, and their light continues to move, carrying the story of all that has ever been. It is the same story written in every breath of air, every tide, every heartbeat. The story of motion without haste, of distance without separation, of time unfolding without end. And as you close your eyes, remember that you too are made of the same matter that shines in Andromeda. The same atoms, the same light, the same quiet persistence. The universe is not beyond you. It is within you, waiting to be noticed. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let that thought stay with you. The galaxies move, the stars breathe, and somewhere, between the turning of the worlds and the quiet rhythm of your own heart, everything is connected. The faint smudge in the sky is not far away. It is part of the same luminous whole that has always held you, gently, without beginning or end. Between our galaxy and Andromeda lies a silence so wide that light itself must travel for 2.5 million years to cross it. When we speak those numbers, they feel abstract, distant, almost meaningless. Yet every heartbeat you have ever felt fits within that span. Every lifetime that has ever come and gone on Earth exists inside a single breath of that light. It is the quiet between us and our nearest galactic neighbor, a gap that feels infinite and yet is already being crossed. The light from Andromeda began its journey long before there were words, long before there were eyes to see it. It has been moving toward us in perfect calm, never slowing, never aging, carrying the memory of suns that have long since died. Tonight, that ancient light rests softly in your sight, bridging a distance that your mind can barely imagine. To understand such a distance, we must first understand what light truly is. It travels at 186,000 miles each second, circling Earth 7 times in a single heartbeat. Stretch that speed across 1 year, and you have a light year, a measure so vast that our everyday sense of space dissolves. Multiply that by 2.5 million, and you begin to glimpse the ocean that lies between the Milky Way and Andromeda. Yet, for all its enormity, this ocean is not empty. It hums with thin streams of hydrogen, with magnetic whispers, with unseen threads of dark matter connecting galaxies like veins of gravity. In that emptiness, there is structure. In the silence, there is rhythm. If you could watch this cosmic sea for millions of years, you would see both galaxies drifting closer, drawn together by gravity's patient hand. Most galaxies in the universe are moving apart, carried away by the expansion of space itself. But Andromeda is close enough and massive enough that it moves against the tide. It approaches us at 250,000 miles per hour, pulled inward by the same force that keeps your feet on the ground and your heart anchored inside your chest. The expansion of space stretches everything apart, yet gravity pulls certain things together, creating islands of intimacy within the endless flow. Andromeda and the Milky Way are 2 such islands, falling toward one another across a gulf that looks empty, but is filled with the invisible threads of attraction. To the human eye, this approach is invisible. Andromeda looks still, a faint cloud pinned to the same corner of the night sky year after year. But in truth, it moves. Its light shifts slightly toward blue, the universal sign of approach. Over billions of years, that motion will bring us together. One day, in a future so distant it lies beyond the lifespan of our sun, our galaxies will meet and merge. The night sky will bloom with spirals of light, and new stars will be born from the collision. The universe will write a new chapter of itself, slow and silent and beautiful. When you look at Andromeda, you are not only looking at the past, you are looking at the future. The photons touching your eyes tonight left their source before humanity began, yet the galaxy itself is already on its way to you. The light shows us what Andromeda was, but the gravity reveals what it will become. The past and the future meet within a single act of seeing. To gaze at Andromeda is to stand in 2 moments at once, the ancient and the unborn. It is to realize that time is not a straight line, but a field of connections, all drifting quietly toward the same center. Inside Andromeda, nearly 1 trillion stars are burning. Each one is a sun like ours, a core of fusion holding the weight of worlds in balance. Some of those stars are small and dim, red dwarfs that sip their fuel slowly, and will shine for trillions of years. Others are massive and bright, blue giants that blaze fiercely and die young. Between them are stars like our own, steady and golden, giving warmth to planets that circle them in endless rhythm. Imagine that variety, worlds beneath red twilight skies, others glowing under twin suns, others bathed in sharp blue light. Every star is its own story, and every planet a page written in light. When we speak of a trillion, the mind stumbles. It is a number too large to hold. You could count one star every second without stopping, and it would take more than 30,000 years to finish. And yet, each one of those stars could hold its own worlds, its own moons, its own clouds and seas. The scale of such abundance stretches the heart as much as it stretches the mind. To think of it not as statistics, but as life is to enter a kind of quiet awe. Perhaps somewhere in Andromeda, under a different sun, there are beings who look up and see the faint blur of our Milky Way. Perhaps they too wonder what it means to exist, to look across emptiness and feel connection. We may never know them, but the light between us is shared. The universe is a bridge of photons and thought. Each star in Andromeda burns according to its own rhythm. Some are newborn, forming from clouds of dust that collapse under gravity's pull. Others are ancient, their cores cooling after billions of years of radiance. Together they create a balance, a living cycle of birth and decay that mirrors the pulse of nature itself. Just as forests on Earth shed their leaves to grow anew, galaxies shed stars and grow new ones from their remains. Energy changes form, but it never disappears. The light that leaves one star may one day help form another. In the vast timescales of the cosmos, destruction and creation are one continuous breath. When astronomers study Andromeda, they are not only counting stars, they are reading history. The color of light tells the age of a star. The way it moves reveals the shape of the galaxy's gravity. In the spiral arms, clouds of gas and dust trace the paths where new stars are being born. Clusters of blue suns mark the regions of youth, while the reddish core tells of old age and memory. The galaxy is like a body, its light a pulse that can be read and understood. To learn its structure is to feel its heartbeat, slow but steady, across the silence of space. Andromeda reminds us that the universe is not a void, but a living system, vast and interconnected. It is easy to think of space as empty, but that emptiness is full of motion and purpose. Gravity binds stars to galaxies, galaxies to clusters, clusters to filaments stretching across billions of light years. The same physics that holds a droplet of water together shapes the orbits of stars. The same balance that lets a flower bloom governs the birth of suns. When seen from far enough away, all the chaos becomes pattern, all the noise becomes music. This understanding does not make the universe less mysterious. It makes it more intimate. To know that the same laws govern both the smallest atom and the largest galaxy is to realize that we are not apart from the cosmos, but expressions of it. The light in your eyes, the iron in your blood, the calcium in your bones, all were forged in ancient stars. The atoms that make you once drifted through space, waiting for a home. When you look at Andromeda, you are seeing the places where future beings might be born, where the ingredients of life are still being mixed. The stars are factories of possibility, and their light is a promise written across eternity. There is humility in this, but also a deep peace. We are small, yes, but we are not insignificant. The atoms within us have traveled across billions of years to form who we are. We are the universe noticing itself, a brief awareness blooming in the great stillness. When you think of the distance to Andromeda, do not think of separation. Think of connection stretched across time. The light does not fail to arrive. It never gives up. It travels unbroken through the dark until it finds a receptive gaze. In the same way, moments of understanding move through the quiet of our lives, waiting for us to be still enough to receive them. Science gives us numbers: 2.5 million light years, 1 trillion stars, a speed of 250,000 miles per hour. But numbers alone cannot carry the feeling of that truth. For that, we need stillness. We need the willingness to imagine. Picture the void between galaxies as a calm sea. Imagine each photon as a small vessel crossing that sea, carrying news of another world. Night after night, those vessels arrive at Earth, entering our atmosphere, touching our eyes, filling our minds with their soft message. That message says, you are part of this. You are not alone. In the quiet distance between galaxies lies a lesson about the human spirit. We too are drawn by unseen forces, by the gravity of love, of curiosity, of belonging. We move through our lives reaching for connection, pulled toward one another despite the spaces that divide us. The same principle that binds stars binds hearts. Across time and silence, everything seeks union. The universe expands, but within it, there are moments of approach, moments when separation turns into meeting. Andromeda's journey toward us is one such meeting, written in the language of physics, but spoken in the voice of harmony. If you were to watch that meeting from afar, it would look serene. The galaxies would drift closer, their shapes stretching gracefully, their stars interweaving like threads in a cosmic tapestry. There would be no crash, no explosion, only the slow blending of light. Creation often looks like stillness when seen from the right distance. That is how Andromeda moves toward us, silently, patiently, with purpose. Perhaps that is the most beautiful truth of all. The universe does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. Galaxies merge, stars are born, light crosses the void, and life appears on small worlds like ours. Every process unfolds in its own time. The cosmos has no need for urgency. Its power lies in its patience. To watch the stars is to be reminded that we too can move without rushing, grow without striving, become without fear. So as you think of Andromeda tonight, do not picture it as far away. Picture it as part of your own unfolding. The same laws that draw it closer draw your own life forward. The same light that leaves its stars touches your skin. The same gravity that shapes its path holds you steady on Earth. The universe is not out there. It is here, woven through every atom of being. Andromeda is a mirror in the dark, showing us what it means to exist in relationship rather than isolation. Every night, the light of Andromeda continues to arrive, unchanged by the vastness it has crossed. It does not falter. It does not fade. It simply travels, carrying the quiet assurance that distance does not diminish connection. The same is true for us. Across time, across memory, across everything we cannot measure, there is a thread linking all things. You can feel it when you look at the sky, when you breathe, when you pause long enough to notice the stillness beneath motion. The galaxies move. The stars burn, and in the space between them, something invisible holds everything together. And that is where we belong, in the space between, in the calm that connects rather than divides, in the light that keeps traveling no matter how far it must go. When you look at Andromeda, remember that its journey toward us is also the universe's gentle reminder. What is meant to meet will meet. What drifts apart may one day return. The cosmos breathes, and we breathe with it. In its rhythm, there is no haste, no fear, only the endless unfolding of light across time. Far beyond the glittering stars of Andromeda lies something that cannot be seen. It does not shine, it does not glow, and yet it holds the galaxy together. Astronomers call it dark matter, though the name feels more poetic than literal. It is not darkness in the sense of shadow or absence, but rather the hidden substance that fills the spaces between what we can know. Around Andromeda, this unseen material forms a vast halo, stretching millions of light years beyond the glowing spiral we see through telescopes. It outweighs every star, every planet, every particle of luminous gas, and yet we cannot touch it, cannot see it, cannot even truly imagine it. The visible part of Andromeda is like the lantern, but the dark halo around it is the night that allows that lantern to exist. When scientists first studied how Andromeda's stars moved, they noticed something strange. The stars at the edges of the galaxy were moving too quickly. According to Newton's laws, they should have drifted away, flung outward by their own motion. But they did not. Something invisible was holding them in place, keeping the galaxy whole. That invisible presence became known as dark matter. It does not emit light, it does not reflect it, but it reveals itself through gravity, through the way it bends space and anchors the stars. To know it exists is to know that the universe hides more than it shows. If we could see Andromeda's dark halo, it would dwarf the glowing spiral we know. It would appear as a vast sphere, a cocoon of gravity stretching millions of light years across. The stars and nebulae that we admire are only the faint tracings within it, like bright dust swirling in a larger, unseen current. Everything we can see is just the surface of a much deeper ocean, and in that truth lies something quietly humbling. Most of what exists in the universe cannot be seen. Most of what shapes our world, our galaxies, and perhaps even ourselves, lies beyond direct perception. The visible is only the whisper of the real. There is beauty in this kind of mystery. Science gives it a name and a formula, but philosophy gives it meaning. Dark matter is a reminder that absence is not emptiness. The things we cannot measure still move the world. Just as gravity binds galaxies across space, unseen kindness, love, and memory bind human lives across time. We live in a world shaped as much by what is invisible as by what is visible. The universe, it seems, speaks in the same quiet language as the human heart. Imagine drifting within Andromeda's dark halo, surrounded by silence. No stars, no dust, no light, only the invisible pull of gravity flowing through you like a slow tide. You would feel nothing, yet everything around you would be moving according to its guidance. In that emptiness, there is an order beyond sight, a calm strength that holds the galaxy together. Perhaps this is how truth often feels, quiet and invisible, yet constant. When astronomers study the halo, they map it not by sight but by influence. They trace the motion of stars, the bending of light from distant galaxies behind it, the delicate distortions caused by gravity itself. These observations reveal the outline of something unseen. It is as though the universe has drawn its most important shapes in invisible ink, waiting for patient eyes to reveal them. Andromeda's halo is one such shape, immense and silent, yet essential. Without it, the galaxy would unravel. As technology improved, scientists realized that this hidden mass connects galaxies together in a larger structure. Filaments of dark matter stretch across space, linking clusters of galaxies like threads in a cosmic web. Where these threads intersect, galaxies form, their luminous bodies anchored to the invisible framework beneath. Andromeda is one of these nodes, bound to the Milky Way by strands of unseen gravity. Our two galaxies are not isolated, but part of a larger design, drifting within a structure so vast that even imagination struggles to contain it. The image of this web is hauntingly beautiful. Imagine the universe not as a void, but as a vast tapestry woven from light and darkness, matter and silence. The galaxies are the bright knots in the fabric, glowing where the threads cross. Between them stretches the unseen pattern of dark matter, the quiet scaffolding that gives shape to everything we know. The stars shine, but it is the invisible that holds them steady. The more we look into the cosmos, the clearer it becomes that visibility is not the same as importance. The unseen often carries the greatest weight. There is a lesson in that, one that extends beyond astronomy. In our own lives, the most powerful forces are often invisible. You cannot see time, yet it shapes you. You cannot see love, yet it holds you. You cannot see memory, yet it guides every choice you make. The cosmos reflects this truth in its structure. The light may dazzle the eye, but it is the unseen gravity that maintains harmony. Andromeda's halo is not an absence. It is a presence so complete that it transcends light itself. For centuries, humanity believed the boundaries of galaxies were sharp and clear, like the edge of a planet or the rim of a cloud. But the universe resists edges. It prefers gradients, slow dissolves, quiet transitions. The stars thin, the light fades, and then the unseen takes over. To draw a line where the galaxy ends is to impose certainty upon what is meant to flow. Andromeda, like all living things, has no true boundary. Its influence stretches far beyond what the eye can capture. It blends with the halo of our own Milky Way, their unseen edges already touching, whispering of the future union that will come. This revelation changes the way we see not only the galaxy, but ourselves. We too are not defined by sharp edges. The borders of our being blend into everything we have loved, everything that has touched us. We extend beyond what is visible, carried forward by the unseen forces of thought, emotion, and connection. The halo of our lives reaches farther than we know. As astronomers mapped the faint outer reaches of Andromeda, they discovered stars scattered much farther out than anyone had imagined. These stars form faint streams and clusters, remnants of galaxies long ago absorbed. Their orbits trace the outline of the dark halo, marking its invisible shape with gentle light. The stars are like lanterns set adrift in a vast unseen sea. Each one tells a story of motion, of capture, of belonging. Andromeda's outskirts are not empty. They are the memory of its past. Every star that drifts there is a survivor of some earlier union, a witness to the slow evolution of galaxies through time. There is a deep peace in understanding this. Galaxies grow not through sudden creation, but through gentle accumulation. They absorb, they merge, they stretch their arms outward and draw others in. Even destruction becomes a kind of tenderness. The smaller galaxies are not erased, they are remembered, woven into the greater whole. Their stars continue to shine, their light carried forward in new patterns. Andromeda's halo, vast and quiet, is a monument to this slow compassion of the universe. Nothing is truly lost. Everything becomes part of something larger. To look at the dark halo, even in the mind's eye, is to sense eternity. It has no beginning or end, only presence. It moves without moving, holds without touching, speaks without sound. The physics that describe it are precise, but the feeling it evokes is poetic. The universe is not built only of matter and energy, but of relationship. Every atom, every planet, every star exists because of its connection to something else. The dark halo is that connection made visible through gravity, the ultimate reminder that everything depends on everything else. If you could step beyond the visible spiral of Andromeda and drift into its dark halo, you might feel as though you had entered the space between thoughts. There would be no landmarks, no light, only the faint sense of presence, like the still air before dawn. You would not know where you began or ended, because in that space, boundaries dissolve. The self and the universe would feel like the same thing, two expressions of one vast calm. That is the quiet truth of the cosmos. In the places where we think nothing exists, everything does. Science continues to explore the nature of dark matter, searching for its particles, its origin, its role in creation. Yet even as we measure and theorize, there is room for wonder. Perhaps we will find that dark matter is not a substance at all, but a property of space itself, a whisper of something deeper that we cannot yet name. The search is not just for knowledge, but for understanding. Every discovery brings us closer to the realization that mystery is not a flaw in the universe. It is its essence. Andromeda's dark halo invites us to accept what we cannot see. It teaches us that knowing does not mean possessing, and that light is only one way to reveal truth. When we accept the unseen, we become more complete. We learn to sense the quiet structures beneath experience, the invisible frameworks that give meaning to life. The galaxy, with all its brilliance, rests upon the foundation of the unseen. So do we. When you next imagine Andromeda, do not picture only its luminous spiral arms. Picture also the vast transparent sphere surrounding it, the silent sea of gravity that keeps it whole. That halo is not absence. It is the breath of the cosmos. It is the pause between notes, the stillness between heartbeats, the space that allows everything else to move. Within that silence lies both the science of stability and the philosophy of peace. To stand beneath the night sky and know this is to feel a deeper calm. You realize that what is visible is never all there is. Just as the galaxy depends on its dark halo, our visible lives depend on the invisible networks of care and meaning that sustain us. The stars may be bright, but it is the darkness between them that makes the light beautiful. In the end, Andromeda's true boundary is not its edge of light, but its unseen extension into the infinite. Its dark halo merges into the same space that surrounds us now. The night above your head and the night that holds the galaxy are the same night. There is no separation, only perspective. The light you see from Andromeda passes through that invisible field, through time, through silence, until it reaches you. And in receiving it, you complete the connection. You become part of the same web, the same story of light held by darkness, of existence supported by the unseen. And so, The more we learn about Andromeda, the more we are reminded of our own nature. We are made of light, yes, but also of shadow. We are composed of what can be seen and what cannot. To live well is to honor both. To know that beauty exists not because of its visibility, but because of its balance with the unseen. The galaxy above you and the heart within you are built on the same law. That presence does not require sight, that truth does not need to be loud, and that what holds everything together is often what remains invisible. Inside the great swirl of Andromeda, there are rivers of stars that wind and shimmer like threads of silver light. These rivers are not random. They are the remains of smaller galaxies that once drifted too close and were slowly pulled apart by Andromeda's gravity. Their stars did not vanish. They became part of something larger, flowing into new orbits, creating faint streams that curve around the spiral arms like echoes of old songs. When astronomers observe these streams, they are looking at history written in motion, the memory of long-forgotten collisions that happened hundreds of millions of years ago. Andromeda is not a fixed shape. It is a story still unfolding, a dance of destruction and renewal that never truly ends. From our distance, the galaxy appears serene, but inside it, everything is in motion. Stars orbit the center at unimaginable speeds, following invisible paths carved by gravity. Clusters move like flocks of birds, flowing in graceful arcs around the galactic core. If you could watch Andromeda in fast motion, you would see it breathing, arms expanding and folding, clouds of gas condensing into new stars, supernovae flashing like sudden heartbeats. Yet because these changes unfold over millions of years, they appear still to our brief eyes. What seems frozen is alive. What seems silent is filled with rhythm. At the very center of Andromeda rests a supermassive black hole, about 100 million times the mass of our Sun. It lies hidden behind veils of dust and gas, invisible but known by its influence. Stars near it move in tight, rapid orbits, circling a point that emits no light. This core is both the galaxy's heart and its mystery. In human language, we often use darkness as a metaphor for fear or absence, but in the cosmos, darkness is a place of creation. The black hole does not destroy the galaxy, it anchors it. Its gravity keeps the inner stars in order, maintaining the structure that allows beauty to exist. If we could see near that center, we would find a realm of unimaginable energy. Gas spirals inward, heating as it falls, glowing in ultraviolet and X-ray light. Magnetic fields twist and crackle. Time itself slows as it approaches the event horizon, the point beyond which nothing can return. And yet, around that edge, matter dances. It spins faster and faster, radiating light before it disappears. The black hole is not chaos, it is balance. It consumes, yes, but it also sustains, converting the fall of matter into light that travels across the galaxy. It is the quiet paradox of nature, that what holds the power to devour is also what keeps everything whole. When astronomers map Andromeda's spiral arms, they see patterns that repeat across the universe. These arms are not solid structures, but waves of density, like ripples on a pond. Stars move through them, gathering and dispersing as they go. In these arms, clouds of hydrogen collapse into new suns. The youngest stars shine blue and hot, filling the regions with brilliance, while older stars drift away into calmer orbits. The arms mark places of birth, but also of movement, of constant renewal. The galaxy breathes in these rhythms. If you imagine Andromeda as a great living being, its spiral arms are like veins and arteries, carrying energy outward and inward, sustaining its vast body. Its stars are cells of light, each playing a role in the organism of the galaxy. The black hole at its center is the heart, pulsing invisibly, drawing in and releasing energy in a cosmic circulation. Even in the cold emptiness of space, there is this quiet analogy to life. The universe seems lifeless from afar, yet everywhere we look, we find patterns of birth, decay, and rebirth, as if existence itself has a pulse. The rivers of stars that wind around Andromeda's edges remind us that creation often comes through transformation. Those stars once belonged to smaller galaxies, each with its own story, its own path through time. When they were drawn into Andromeda's gravity, their separate identities dissolved, but their light remained. They became part of a greater harmony. Perhaps that is how all things move toward wholeness. In surrender, not in struggle. The universe expands, but it also gathers, blending what was once separate into new forms. The spiral arms of Andromeda stretch across 200,000 light-years, and yet the pattern they trace is familiar. We see spirals everywhere, in the shells of snails, in the whirl of hurricanes, in the twist of DNA, in the shape of our own Milky Way. The spiral seems to be the universe's signature, a symbol of motion balanced with stillness, of order born from flow. It is neither linear nor circular. It moves outward without end, yet always returns toward its center. When you look at a spiral, you can sense time itself turning. It is the shape of becoming. The stars that light these arms live and die in cycles. Massive ones burn quickly and end as supernovae, scattering heavy elements across space. Those elements become the seeds of new stars, planets, and life. The same calcium in your bones, the same iron in your blood, once shone inside a star that may have died before the Earth was formed. To see Andromeda is to see the source of that inheritance. Every star is both an ending and a beginning. Every burst of light a reminder that creation is a continuous act. In some regions of Andromeda, astronomers have found clusters of young stars, surrounded by nebulae glowing in pink and red. These are stellar nurseries, where hydrogen gas condenses under gravity until it ignites. The process takes millions of years, yet from the right distance it appears effortless. The stars are born quietly, without announcement, the way dawn spreads across the sky. Each new sun becomes part of the galaxy's harmony, adding another note to its eternal song. There is an image taken by the Hubble Space Telescope showing the inner lanes of dust within Andromeda. They appear dark against the surrounding glow, as if the galaxy wears a pattern of shadows. Yet those dark regions are not voids. They are the places where light will someday be born. The dust gathers, thickens, and becomes the cradle for new stars. What looks like absence is preparation. What looks like silence is potential. The universe never wastes its darkness. It uses it to shape the next generation of light. If you look closely at Andromeda's spiral arms, you can see stars at every stage of their existence. Some are newly formed, burning with fierce blue energy. Others are fading into red, their fuel nearly gone. Still others have already ended, leaving behind white dwarfs or neutron stars, dense remnants that mark the transition between forms. The galaxy is a vast field of time where the beginning and the end coexist. Every point of light tells a story of change, of endurance, of returning to the cycle. This endless renewal mirrors something within us. Just as stars are born from the dust of those that came before, our lives too are shaped by what has passed through others. Every word we speak, every thought we think, carries echoes of the people and moments that have touched us. We are not isolated beings. We are continuations, threads in a tapestry woven across generations. The same principle that builds galaxies builds us. The visible is only the surface of something much deeper. When scientists model Andromeda's evolution, they find that it has consumed many smaller galaxies over billions of years. Their stars now move within its halo, their names forgotten, but their light enduring. The galaxy grows not by creating from nothing, but by integrating what comes to it. It transforms loss into structure. It remembers through light. There is a quiet compassion in that process. The cosmos does not mourn what is gone. It reuses it. It keeps moving, keeps shaping, keeps shining. If you could stand on a world within Andromeda and look up, you would see a night sky unlike ours. The spiral arms would stretch across the heavens, vast rivers of light flowing from horizon to horizon. Between them, clouds of dust would form patterns like smoke drifting in water. You might feel the same wonder we feel when we look at the Milky Way, the same smallness, the same peace. No matter where you stand in the universe, the feeling is the same. To look up is to remember that you belong to something immeasurably greater. The black hole at the center of Andromeda continues to draw matter inward, but it also gives back. When too much gas falls toward it, the pressure and heat can drive powerful winds outward, shaping the galaxy around it. The balance between giving and taking keeps the system alive. In that way, the black hole is not only a destroyer, but also a creator, a regulator of growth. The same principle applies to all living things. To sustain, we must balance intake with release, stillness with motion, holding with letting go. Andromeda teaches us that even what appears violent or consuming can have purpose. The merging of galaxies, the collapse of stars, the pull of gravity into darkness, all are part of the same elegant pattern. The universe does not separate beauty from destruction. It folds them together into harmony. In every act of dissolution lies the seed of creation. Every end is a doorway disguised as silence. When you look at the images of Andromeda, captured by telescopes that orbit far above Earth, you see a galaxy that feels both eternal and fragile. Its light has traveled millions of years to reach us, yet what we see is only a fleeting moment in its history. Stars will continue to be born, to live, and to fade. The spiral arms will change shape, the core will grow heavier, and eventually, Andromeda will meet the Milky Way. But even that future collision will not be an ending. It will be another transformation, another movement in the cosmic symphony. The galaxy invites us to see time differently. We often think of time as a straight path, a line that leads from past to future. But the universe moves in cycles, in spirals. What was once dust becomes light, and what becomes light will one day return to dust. This circular motion is not repetition, but evolution. Each turn of the spiral brings something new, even as it returns to familiar shapes. Life, too, moves like this. We revisit the same lessons in different forms, each time understanding them more deeply. In Andromeda's graceful arms, we find the same lesson written in light. Motion is not chaos, it is order beyond our immediate grasp. Change is not loss, it is continuity seen from another angle. The universe has no need for permanence. Its beauty lies in its flow. If you close your eyes and imagine drifting through the galaxy, you might see the faint glow of ancient stars around you, the soft haze of dust forming new suns, the black center drawing everything inward and releasing it again as energy. You would feel the quiet rhythm of a system in balance, a living metaphor for the way all things rise and fall. The galaxy does not fight its transformations, it moves with them, and that is perhaps the greatest lesson Andromeda offers. There is peace in motion if one moves with awareness. There is stability in change if one understands its purpose. The same forces that create galaxies shape our own lives. Gravity pulling us toward connection, time folding us into cycles, darkness nurturing light. To live well is to move as the galaxies do, slowly, steadily, with grace, allowing what must change to change, and trusting that each transformation leads to a wider, deeper harmony. As the stars of Andromeda continue their endless journey, they remind us that stillness does not mean the absence of movement. It means the acceptance of rhythm. To watch the galaxy is to see patience embodied, energy flowing without haste, light returning after darkness. Everything that exists, from the smallest atom to the largest spiral of stars, participates in the same serene unfolding. The rivers of light within Andromeda are not separate from us. They are the universe breathing, and in some quiet way, we are breathing with it. If you look closely at Andromeda through a telescope, you will see that its light is not smooth. It ripples with faint shadows, streaks of darkness that wind across its glowing arms. These dark lanes are made of cosmic dust, fine grains of carbon, ice, and metals, tiny fragments of what was once the heart of dying stars. To the eye, they seem to hide the light, but in truth, they are its cradle. Within those dark regions, new stars are forming, quiet and unseen. The darkness is not an end, it is preparation for light. Every galaxy carries these veils of dust. They drift between the stars like whispers of memory, absorbing starlight, scattering it, shaping what we see and what we do not. In Andromeda, the dust forms patterns that resemble rivers and shores, delicate and irregular. They are the galaxy's way of breathing, a balance between clarity and obscurity. Without dust, there would be no stars, no planets, no life. Dust is the gentle intermediary between death and creation, the fine ash from which new worlds rise. When we look at the images captured by the Hubble Space Telescope, the dark bands of Andromeda look like scars, but they are not wounds. They are the evidence of persistence. Each grain of dust is a fragment of a star that once burned brightly, lived its full life, and released its elements back into space. Those elements cooled, gathered, and began again. The dust we see is the bridge between what has been and what will be. It is the universe's way of recycling itself, of turning endings into beginnings. If you could hold a handful of that dust, it would feel meaningless, but inside it are the building blocks of everything you know. Carbon for life, silicon for stone, iron for blood. These elements were born in the cores of ancient stars through nuclear fusion, a process that turns light elements into heavier ones, forging complexity from simplicity. When those stars died, they scattered their contents across space, planting the seeds for new suns and planets. The same dust that floats through Andromeda floats through us. We breathe it. We are made from it. We return to it. Within Andromeda's darker regions, astronomers have found vast clouds of molecular gas, cold, dense, and ready to collapse under their own weight. Over millions of years, gravity pulls the atoms together, and when the density becomes high enough, a spark of fusion ignites. A star is born. Around it, the leftover material may form planets, moons, and comets. From darkness emerges light, and from silence, motion. This process repeats endlessly across time and space. Every bright star in the sky has known this quiet beginning, hidden within the folds of dust. If we could watch one of these stellar nurseries in motion, we would see it unfold like a slow breath. Gas gathers, pressure builds, and light appears where there was none. The new star glows fiercely at first, burning away the surrounding dust and revealing its brilliance to the galaxy. Nearby, the radiation from this newborn light triggers new collapses in the gas, and other stars are born. Creation spreads like ripples in still water. What began as darkness becomes a field of light, each point shining because the shadow once held it close. In this way, Andromeda reminds us that creation and obscurity are not opposites but companions. Light needs the dark to be born, and the dark needs light to find its purpose. The same balance exists within us. Out of moments of confusion come insight. From loss, compassion. From silence, understanding. Every human life, like every star, passes through phases of burning and cooling, brightness and shadow. The universe does not rush these transformations. It lets them unfold at the pace of eternity. As the stars age, they too release their material back into the galaxy. Some shed their outer layers gently, creating glowing nebulae that fade over time. Others die violently, in explosions that send shockwaves across space. Each death enriches the interstellar medium with new elements, with the raw material for new generations of stars. Andromeda's light, therefore, is not static. It carries within it the memory of countless lives, of stars that lived and died long before our world existed. When astronomers study the colors of Andromeda's light, they find that its inner regions are filled with older, redder stars, while its outer arms sparkle with younger, bluer ones. The galaxy is a mosaic of ages, a living record of time. The red giants at the core have burned for billions of years, slow and steady, their light softer, their energy fading. Around them, new stars rise and fall, giving shape to the spiral's radiance. The galaxy's beauty lies in this balance between youth and age, between endurance and renewal. The oldest stars in Andromeda are like quiet witnesses. They have seen entire civilizations of stars come and go, entire arms of the galaxy shift and reshape. Their light is faint but persistent, a gentle reminder that longevity carries its own form of grace. These ancient suns burn with less intensity, but their warmth is constant, their rhythm sure. They teach us something about the nature of time. That strength is not always in brightness, but in persistence. In contrast, the youngest stars burn with fierce light, living short, brilliant lives before collapsing. They represent vitality, creation, and change. Together, the old and the new weave the harmony of the galaxy. It is a balance that mirrors our own lives, the wisdom of the old guiding the energy of the young, the steady pulse of memory meeting the spark of curiosity. Andromeda carries both, held in the same vast body, united by gravity, shaped by time. Between the bright stars and the dark dust lies a truth that speaks beyond science. The universe is not a place of perfection, but of balance. Its beauty comes not from flawlessness, but from the coexistence of opposites. Without shadow, light would be meaningless. Without decay, there would be no renewal. The galaxy does not separate these states. It allows them to merge. When we look at Andromeda, we are seeing the universe practicing acceptance. Nothing is wasted. Everything belongs. In our lives, we often fear the dark moments, the times of stillness, uncertainty, or loss. Yet the galaxy reminds us that darkness is not the enemy of light, but its partner. It is the quiet field from which new understanding grows. Just as dust clouds birth stars, our challenges birth wisdom. The cosmos does not rush the process. It trusts the rhythm of becoming. Every transformation takes the time it needs. In the deepest parts of Andromeda, near its glowing center, the dust gathers thickly. It twists and folds like smoke, shaping intricate patterns that look almost alive. When light from nearby stars passes through it, it scatters, creating halos and glows. This scattering makes the galaxy's light softer, more diffuse, more human. Without the dust, the light would be harsh, sterile. The imperfections are what make it beautiful. Science tells us that Andromeda contains billions of solar systems, each unique, each potentially carrying its own worlds. Some of those worlds may orbit quietly within the dark dust lanes, hidden from the galaxy's brilliance. They might never see the light of their star directly, yet they exist within its reach, warmed by its presence. The thought itself is comforting. Even in shadow, there can be warmth. Even in distance, there can be connection. When you imagine the galaxy in motion, think of its dust not as an obstacle, but as a guide. It shapes the flow of light, defines contrast, gives form to the infinite. In the same way, the uncertainties in our lives give shape to our understanding. Without the unknown, there would be no growth. The universe thrives on this interplay of concealment and revelation, of knowing and mystery. That balance is what keeps it alive. Andromeda's dust is ancient. Some of its grains are older than our sun, older even than our galaxy. They have traveled across intergalactic space, carried by winds of radiation and gravity. When you look at Andromeda, you are seeing fragments of the earliest stars, still wandering, still part of the story. Time in the universe does not erase, it transforms. Every particle, every photon continues its journey, reshaping and rejoining. In the dark lanes where stars are born, there is also sound. Not sound as we know it, but vibrations of gas and dust moving through space. These vibrations create waves, echoes of creation. If you could translate them into something audible, you might hear a deep, slow hum, the kind of sound that makes you feel small and safe at the same time. The galaxy is singing, softly, in frequencies our ears cannot hear. It is a song of continuity, of endless transformation. From a distance, Andromeda's light looks pure white, but when broken into its spectrum, it reveals every color: red from the aging giants, blue from the young stars, yellow from the middling suns, and black from the dust that binds them all. Together they form a harmony that is not possible in isolation. The same principle governs every aspect of existence. Beauty is never a single note. It is a chord made from contrast. When we reflect on this, we see ourselves mirrored in the galaxy. We too carry brightness and shadow, clarity and confusion. Our lives are filled with cycles of creation and rest, of light emerging from darkness. The same physics that governs the stars governs our inner worlds. Energy flows, changes form, finds new expression. There is no true end, only transformation. In the future, the dust within Andromeda will continue to shape its evolution. It will give birth to new stars, obscure others, and slowly drift into the intergalactic medium as the galaxy ages. Even as Andromeda merges with the Milky Way, the dust will persist, blending into new systems, carrying the memory of both galaxies forward. In the grand rhythm of the cosmos, nothing disappears. Everything changes shape and continues to shine in another form. So when you see the faint smudge of Andromeda in the sky, remember that its light and its shadows are the same thing. The darkness you see is not emptiness, but promise. The dust that hides the stars also prepares their birth. The galaxy teaches us patience, the patience to let what is hidden unfold, the patience to trust the unseen process of renewal. The cosmos never hurries. It allows light to emerge in its own time, dust to gather in its own way, and stars to live their brief lives fully before returning to silence. In that stillness, there is a wisdom deeper than words. It tells us that light and shadow are not adversaries but companions, moving together through eternity. And perhaps that is what Andromeda wants to remind us. That every cloud conceals a spark, that every ending carries within it the seed of beginning, and that even in the quietest, darkest corners of existence, the universe continues to create. The dust of the galaxy drifts, the stars burn, the light travels on, and in all of it there is balance, softness, and the endless calm of becoming. Drifting farther from the bright spiral of Andromeda, we enter a quieter realm that surrounds it like a faint whisper, the halo. Out here, the light is thin, the stars sparse, the airless silence almost complete. Yet this space, seemingly empty, holds some of the oldest and most enduring members of the galaxy. The globular clusters, they hang like suspended pearls, each one a sphere of hundreds of thousands of ancient stars, bound together in delicate balance. These clusters are fossils of time, remnants from an age when galaxies were just beginning to take shape. Within them lies the record of the universe's youth, preserved not in words, but in light that has burned without rest for more than 10 billion years. Each cluster moves in a long, graceful orbit around Andromeda, taking hundreds of millions of years to complete a single journey. They move through the halo like fireflies circling a lantern, their collective motion forming a silent ballet of gravity. Inside, their stars are so densely packed that from any single world within them, the night sky would never be dark. Thousands of suns would fill the heavens, glowing golden and red, close enough that shadows might never exist. It is a vision both beautiful and humbling, an eternal dawn without horizon, where time seems to fold into stillness. The light from these clusters reaches us after crossing immense gulfs of space, carrying stories older than any planet we know. When astronomers study their spectra, they find few heavy elements, meaning these stars were born before the universe had yet learned to create complexity. They are among the first to have formed after the birth of the cosmos itself. Their endurance is almost unfathomable. While younger stars live quickly and burn out, these old suns persist, shining softly through eons. They remind us that longevity is its own kind of brilliance, that what endures quietly often outlasts what dazzles. If you could drift close to one of these clusters, you might sense their gravity as a gentle pull, a steady hum in the fabric of space. Each star moves in delicate balance, held by the combined attraction of all the others. There is no single leader, no dominant force, only the harmony of collective motion. It is as if the universe, in its earliest moments, learned to create unity through interdependence. That same principle governs all scales of existence, from galaxies to ecosystems to hearts. Stability is born not from control, but from cooperation. Farther out, beyond the visible limits of the spiral arms, faint streams of stars trace graceful arcs through the dark. These are the remnants of smaller galaxies long ago captured by Andromeda's gravity. Over billions of years, they were stretched, torn, and blended into the larger whole. Their stars now drift in the halo like memories woven into a larger identity. Each one carries the motion of its original home, yet now contributes to the rhythm of something grander. In this way, the galaxy grows not by conquest, but by assimilation, by transforming what once was separate into harmony. Among these drifting companions are dwarf galaxies, small, dim collections of stars that orbit Andromeda like satellites. Some, like M32 and M110, can be seen even through modest telescopes from Earth. They are faint, irregular, quiet, living on the edge of the vast spiral's gravity. These companions tell a story of intimacy and distance, of relationships that have lasted longer than life itself. Some are being slowly absorbed, their stars pulled into Andromeda's outer halo, while others circle still, untouched for now. Their orbits are ancient dances, each step choreographed by invisible gravity. The process through which Andromeda absorbs these smaller galaxies is not violent as we might imagine. It unfolds slowly over spans of time so vast that destruction and creation blur together. When two galaxies meet, their stars rarely collide. Instead, they pass through one another like waves merging in an ocean. Gravity rearranges their orbits, blending their light, redistributing their dust and gas. What appears catastrophic from one perspective is, from another, an act of renewal. Through this slow merging, the galaxy reshapes itself, evolving not through abrupt endings, but through continuous transformation. The remnants of these ancient mergers can still be seen today in Andromeda's halo. Streams of stars, some long and thin, others faint and diffuse, wind through space like ribbons left behind by forgotten worlds. Astronomers trace these streams to map the galaxy's history, each one marking a moment of encounter, of exchange. Together, they form a portrait of motion that spans billions of years. To gaze upon them is to witness the universe remembering itself, its memory written not in words, but in orbits of light. What is striking about this process is how gentle it appears when viewed across cosmic time. The galaxy does not rush. It expands and contracts, gathers and releases in perfect rhythm. Everything that falls into it finds a place, even if that place takes eons to form. The same patience exists in life. Growth does not always announce itself with noise. Often, it happens quietly, beneath awareness, as experiences merge and reshape the self. The stars in Andromeda's halo have learned this truth. To belong is to change, and to change is to continue existing. The globular clusters are especially poetic symbols of endurance. Some orbit together in groups, bound not only to Andromeda, but to each other. They move through the halo like families, their shared paths carved by ancient events. Within them, the stars have aged in peace, unbothered by the chaos of the galaxy's center. Their orbits take them far from the bright spiral into regions of pure night where the only illumination is their own. They are both a part and part of the whole, a reflection of how individuality can exist within unity. Inside each cluster, the dynamics are complex yet balanced. Stars tug at one another, forming a delicate gravitational equilibrium. Over billions of years, the clusters gradually lose mass, shedding a few stars into the surrounding halo, which in turn strengthens the galaxy's fabric. Nothing is wasted. The stars that drift away become part of Andromeda's broader structure, enriching it with their presence. Even disintegration serves purpose. The universe wastes nothing, not even decay. In some regions of the halo, astronomers have found what they call stellar streams, traces of past galaxies stretched thin by Andromeda's gravity. These faint trails are the handwriting of cosmic history, signatures of encounters too ancient for human reckoning. They remind us that every structure, no matter how vast, is built upon what came before. The light of these stars carries the memory of their origins, even as they now belong to a new system. Memory in the cosmos is not stored in thought but in motion. The halo itself extends so far that it overlaps with the halo of the Milky Way. Even now, the two galaxies are not entirely separate. Their outer stars already mingle, their invisible fields intertwining. What we call distance is often just the illusion of scale. Connection persists even when it cannot be seen. In this quiet overlap, the future is already beginning. The slow merging of two galaxies into one. It is a reminder that union does not always announce itself. Sometimes it begins with small touches, faint exchanges, unnoticed until they are complete. Beyond Andromeda's halo, the darkness thickens into intergalactic space, but even there, traces of its influence remain. Gravity does not fade abruptly. It stretches outward, growing weaker but never vanishing. Every particle that falls under Andromeda's pull is part of its being. The galaxy, in this sense, is not confined to its light. Its true body extends far beyond what the eye perceives, shaped by the unseen connections that link everything together. The study of these outer regions has revealed that Andromeda's halo is enriched with elements like oxygen, nitrogen, and carbon, ingredients necessary for life. These atoms drift through the emptiness, waiting to be drawn into new systems, new stars, perhaps new worlds. The boundary of the galaxy, then, is not an ending, but a beginning, a reservoir of potential. What seems distant and cold is, in truth, fertile. Creation does not need warmth. It needs time. As we contemplate the outer halo, it becomes clear that the universe has always favored transformation over permanence. Every galaxy, every cluster, every star is caught in this flow of becoming. Nothing is static, yet everything remains connected. The stars in Andromeda's halo will one day be scattered by future mergers, their light folded into a new galaxy's glow. But the essence of them, the atoms, the gravity, the energy, will continue. They will become parts of new patterns, new skies. In our own lives, we often resist such change. We cling to form, to familiarity, forgetting that endurance is not about remaining the same, but about evolving gracefully. The galaxies teach a gentler wisdom, that strength lies in adaptation, that beauty is not fixed, but fluid. Andromeda does not mourn the galaxies it absorbs. It honors them by carrying their stars forward. We too can carry the light of what we have lost, not as burden, but as inheritance. When we gaze at the halo from afar, it appears almost transparent, a faint glow blending into the cosmic background. Yet within that faintness is vast substance, quiet but firm. It is the same with the invisible forces that shape our lives: faith, hope, memory, love. They are not bright in the way that achievements or noise are bright, but they hold us together all the same. The halo is the galaxy's grace, its soft embrace of everything that comes its way. Astronomers continue to discover new clusters and streams around Andromeda, pushing its boundaries farther with each observation. Each discovery reveals that the galaxy is larger, older, and more complex than we once thought. The more we learn, the less defined its edges become. The universe seems to prefer openness to certainty, vastness to confinement. It invites us to do the same, to expand rather than close, to reach rather than retreat, to see ourselves as part of something that extends beyond all measure. Even the faintest stars in the halo have their purpose. Some serve as markers of the galaxy's gravitational reach, others as guides for navigation, still others as silent reminders that nothing is truly isolated. They shine quietly, unobserved by most, yet their presence shapes the galaxy's field. In that way, they are like the unnoticed acts of kindness in a human life, small, faint, yet essential to the whole. If you were to float within Andromeda's halo, you would find that the darkness there is not empty. It vibrates with potential, with the slow rhythm of motion and memory. The stars around you would move so gradually that you could not see them shift, yet their gravity would be felt, a soft, steady pull toward belonging. The silence would not be absence, it would be peace. The halo teaches us that everything exists in layers, from the bright and visible to the faint and hidden. To understand a thing fully, one must look beyond its surface. The galaxy's core may dazzle, but its outskirts hold the deeper truth. That connection persists even in distance, that what drifts away is never truly gone. The same applies to our own existence. What leaves us often remains in some unseen form, shaping our future, expanding our horizon. Andromeda, in its vastness, carries within it a simple message. All things are part of one continuous cycle. Stars form, age, and scatter. Galaxies grow by absorbing others. Light travels outward, fading but never ending. Every motion leads to another, every loss to renewal. The universe does not know stillness as we do. Its stillness is movement on a scale so grand that it feels eternal. In the halo's quiet expanse, we find reflection. We are like those clusters, moving through time together, bound by invisible threads. We orbit our own centers, memories, dreams, loves, never truly alone, never truly separate. The cosmos, vast as it is, mirrors this intimacy. It shows us that unity does not erase individuality, that to belong is not to dissolve but to harmonize. As you imagine the faint stars of Andromeda's halo glowing softly in the dark, let yourself breathe with that rhythm. Each heartbeat echoes the quiet pulse of galaxies. Each breath mirrors the slow expansion of the universe. Everything moves together, in silence, in grace. The globular clusters will continue to circle, the halo will continue to stretch, and the galaxies will continue to merge. Time will pass, but the calm will remain. The light may change its shape, but it will never cease to shine. Far in the future, long after our era has passed into silence, the Milky Way and Andromeda will draw close enough that the night sky will begin to change. From a world that may no longer resemble the one we know, future beings, if they exist, will look upward and see a vast new light blooming across the heavens. Andromeda will no longer be a faint smudge, but a colossal glowing arch spanning the sky. Its spiral arms will fill the darkness, its stars scattered like drifting petals. The two galaxies will approach not in chaos, but in rhythm, guided by gravity's steady hand. Their meeting will not be an explosion, but a dance lasting billions of years, slow, graceful, and transformative. The idea of collision sounds violent to the human ear. We imagine destruction, shattering, the end of beauty. But in the scale of the cosmos, collision means merging, reshaping, and renewal. The galaxies will pass through one another, their stars flowing like liquid light. Most of those stars will never touch. The spaces between them are too vast. Instead, gravity will weave new patterns, forming bridges of starlight and trails of gas that curl and fold through the void. Over time, their spirals will stretch, twist, and finally settle into a single immense shape, a new galaxy born from two. Scientists call it Milkomeda, a name that blends both heritages, the echo of two great families becoming one. When we think of that distant future, it is hard not to feel a sense of wonder and melancholy. Everything we know, the constellations, the quiet, familiar patterns of the night, will be transformed. The stars that guided our ancestors will shift into unfamiliar constellations. The galaxies that once stood apart will become one luminous core. Yet this is not an ending. It is the universe continuing its natural rhythm of change. What we call loss is only another form of movement. As Andromeda and the Milky Way draw together, the gas within them will collide, compressing into vast clouds. In those clouds, new stars will ignite, their birth illuminating the merging galaxies. It will be a period of extraordinary creation. Supernovae will bloom like cosmic flowers, enriching the new galaxy with heavy elements, seeding the future for worlds yet to come. The darkness between the stars will flash with newborn light, and the universe will hum softly with the energy of renewal. Over billions of years, the two central black holes, one at the heart of Andromeda, the other in our Milky Way, will begin to spiral toward each other. They will orbit slowly, their immense gravity warping space and time. As they draw near, they will emit ripples through the very fabric of reality, gravitational waves that spread across the cosmos. When they finally merge, they will release a burst of energy greater than all the stars in both galaxies combined. Yet to the eye, it will happen in silence, a motion beyond sound. What remains afterward will be a single, even greater core, calm, steady, ancient. It will hold the new galaxy together for trillions of years, its gravity a quiet reminder of everything that once was. If there are still beings alive to witness this event, they will look up and see not destruction, but grace. The sky will be filled with glowing arcs, rivers of light stretching from horizon to horizon. Over millennia, those shapes will fade into a vast elliptical glow, soft and golden. The new galaxy will breathe quietly, its heart pulsing with energy, its edges drifting into darkness. In that moment, the universe will have completed another cycle of becoming, another step in its long, slow unfolding. The story of this future collision reminds us that creation and dissolution are one continuous motion. The galaxies that merge will not lose themselves. They will evolve into something larger, more complete. The same is true for us. Change is not the opposite of continuity, it is its expression. The atoms that form our bodies were once parts of other stars, other worlds. When we return to dust, that dust will one day form something new. The cosmos has never known endings, only transformations disguised as silence. When we look at Andromeda tonight, we are seeing both memory and prophecy. Its light left millions of years ago, carrying the story of what once was. But the motion that brings it toward us is already shaping what will be. The galaxy in our sky is both past and future, a single symbol of the eternal flow of time. Every photon that reaches your eyes tonight is a message from long ago, whispering of a future already unfolding. The union of our two galaxies will create something beautiful and unfamiliar. The stars will rearrange into new patterns, and the night sky will glow more brightly than ever before. Perhaps future beings will look up and wonder about the ancient names, Andromeda, the Milky Way, names that will have faded into myth. They may not know that once there were two, that once there was separation. They will see only one vast, luminous being stretched across the heavens, and to them, that will be home. In this thought lies a quiet comfort. Everything we build, everything we love, everything we are, will one day become part of something else. Just as Andromeda absorbs the smaller galaxies that orbit it, just as the Milky Way will merge with Andromeda, we too are drawn toward union. The universe is not a place of isolation, it is a web of meeting points. Every interaction, every connection, is part of the same slow convergence toward harmony. From the perspective of eternity, nothing ever truly vanishes. The galaxies that merge will carry within them the light of all that came before. Their stars will continue to shine. Their dust will continue to give birth to new suns. Their black holes will continue to hold the memory of their origins. In time, the shapes will change, but the essence remains. The universe never forgets, it simply rearranges. Even now, the first threads of that future are already forming. The halos of our two galaxies, vast, invisible fields of dark matter, are beginning to overlap. The outermost stars of Andromeda and the Milky Way are already mingling. The connection has begun. It is quiet, imperceptible to our eyes, but it is real. The journey toward unity is already underway. In a way, this cosmic motion mirrors the human heart. We too are drawn together by invisible forces. Gravity has its parallel in love, curiosity, and empathy, the unseen energies that bind us across time and space. Just as galaxies move toward each other, we move toward understanding, toward connection, toward belonging. The universe expands, but within that expansion, everything seeks relationship. When the galaxies finally merge, their combined light will mark a new era in the history of the cosmos. But for us, even imagining it is enough. To know that something so vast and inevitable awaits is to feel both small and eternal. The same laws that will guide that union also shape the orbit of every planet, the rhythm of every heartbeat. We are participants in this unfolding, not observers apart from it. The same gravity that binds galaxies binds us to the world, to each other, to the quiet miracle of existence itself. If we could listen to the sound of this cosmic future, it would not be noise, but harmony. The slow spiraling of stars, the merging of light, the subtle ripples of gravity, all would form a kind of music, inaudible yet deeply felt. The universe sings in wavelengths too vast for our ears, but our souls sense its rhythm. It is the same rhythm that beats in our hearts, the same cadence that draws breath in and out. We belong to that song. There is something profoundly peaceful in this inevitability. The galaxies do not resist their merger. They move toward it naturally without fear. They do not question the change. They embody it. The universe has no anxiety about what comes next, because what comes next is always part of the same flow. If we could live with that same trust, we might find the same peace. When we look up at Andromeda tonight, we see not only a galaxy, but a reflection of ourselves. We are made of the same atoms, shaped by the same forces, guided by the same invisible rhythms. The light we see is not foreign, it is our kin. In a few billion years, our descendants, or whatever consciousness continues in our place, will live within a single vast galaxy born from both. That future belongs to the same story that began when the first stars lit the darkness. The thought of it carries both humility and joy. Humility because we are tiny, ephemeral, one moment in an endless continuum. Joy because we are part of that continuum. We do not stand outside the universe. We are its awareness, looking back upon itself. Each glance at the sky is the cosmos remembering its own beauty. Each breath we take is an echo of that same cosmic rhythm, the inhalation and exhalation of creation. In the far reaches of time, when the galaxies have merged and the universe has aged, the light from our era will still be traveling outward, carrying the imprint of our brief existence. Someone, somewhere, may look up and see that faint trace, the same way we now see Andromeda. And in that moment, across the gulf of time, a connection will form. The universe will once again recognize itself through the eyes of another. So tonight, when you gaze at the faint blur in the sky, let it remind you that you are part of a much larger story. The stars you see are older than imagination, yet their light touches you now, here in this breath. You are the witness of an ongoing creation, the quiet continuation of everything that has ever been. There is no separation between you and the cosmos, only perspective. The galaxies move, the stars burn, the light travels, time flows onward, reshaping, renewing, endlessly patient. You too are part of that flow. Your thoughts, your heartbeat, your quiet wonder, all are small versions of cosmic motion. The same gravity that will one day unite Andromeda and the Milky Way holds your life together. The same light that crosses millions of years now rests in your eyes. And as this journey through the universe comes to rest, let the stillness linger. Feel how vastness becomes intimacy when seen with gentle eyes. The cosmos is not far away. It is here, within you, moving through you, breathing with you. You are made of the same dust, guided by the same rhythm, shining with the same quiet fire. So, as the stars drift slowly overhead, remember, nothing in the universe is truly lost. Nothing truly ends. Every light continues. Every shadow carries meaning. Every silence hums with potential. The galaxies will merge, the stars will fade, and new ones will rise. The cycle will go on, calm and endless. If this journey through the stars has brought you a moment of stillness, a breath of quiet understanding, then let it stay with you. Let it remind you that knowledge can be gentle, and that science, when seen through wonder, becomes poetry. And if you wish to keep drifting through the calm edges of the cosmos with us, To continue exploring these vast, quiet truths together, remember to subscribe to Sleepy Science Drift. Here, every star is a story, every story a soft light in the dark. Let us keep floating through them, slowly, peacefully, until the night itself begins to dream.